welcome the Drastic audience and meet Meirav Oren, CEO and founder of Versatile AI. Versatile AI, in my perspective of it, brings visibility and transparency to the material flow on a job site to provide unbelievable insights to help with efficiency and flow of material. Meirav, you've got an amazing background prior to starting Versatile. Could you give us a few second introduction to you?
Sure thing, and thank you for that introduction. Sometimes it feels like just a mic drop. I could leave right now, but then again, I might say, hey, and thanks for having me. Hopefully, this is valuable for the audience out there. So I'm Meirav Oren, CEO, and very much proud co-founder of Versatile, and just a shout out to the three people that complete me, and Versatile wouldn't be complete without them. So just pointing it out there. My background, classic parent disappointer is one way of defining me. So we could leave it at that. My father was a general contractor. My brother's a project manager. Shamefully enough, I ended up at Intel. Some families don't actually like that as a career decision. But Intel was an unbelievable business school, a life school, and I actually had an incredible time. I'm very, very grateful for my years at Intel. A couple of years ago, though, my brother sadly lost a worker on his job site. The conversation around our dinner table was a very different one than the construction debates that I was used to, and kind of led to where we are today, I guess. But anything in between is just like, growing up, I guess. I'll stick with the parent disappointer. I'm still working on getting it right with both parents. One day I will. I promise I'll share it with the world when I do.
Oh, you're no disappointment in anyone's eyes. But you bring up a couple great facts, and one is you have this knowledge of construction, and then you also have a knowledge of, you said, Intel and the business side of things, and then this tragic event. And I want for you to get into the story of the founding, because I think it's absolutely critical. Because as Stephen Kotler says, that passion is the intersection of multiple curiosities. And you had your construction curiosity, you had your Intel curiosity, and this event with your brother on his job site. And so tell us about that fateful dinner conversation.
Sure, gladly. I'll just say on the construction background, it's mainly knowledge of the people and understanding how to potentially better serve them, and also an unbelievable appreciation for the incredible professionals, men and women out there, and what they're doing, and a realization at the core that they will build with or without technology, and we can only hope to serve, nothing more. And I think that's kind of like, in a nutshell, my construction background, right? But it's probably exactly what you need in order to build something that actually aims at touching people and driving value to real people that do very real work. So just that my sentiment on that one. That dinner was just a very different discussion than our regular construction debates, and through the pain, one thing was very clear, and that was construction is manufacturing and job sites are factories. And with that, we were puzzled, I guess, for at least a couple of minutes as to why is it that every other manufacturing industry can control the process, yet our industry seems to struggle. And part of the answers were, we're looking at one of, probably my favorite manufacturing process, but fragmented and non-structured, probably the most fragmented and non-structured manufacturing process on earth. And how do you control that, right? We believed we can, and we believed that we could actually shed light on processes. And I'll say a word about changing sequences of events, because I believe that's what we do. I actually say that that's my job, changing sequences of events. And there were a couple of things that came up that night, and eventually something got drafted on a post-it. And the basic notion is what Versatile is today. What if we could flawlessly fit the workflows and very naturally fit the workflows while extracting data out of the job site that tells us a story? And from that perspective, the crane was a perfect candidate. And just having an array of sensors under the hook seemed like a good place to start looking. It will definitely fit that non-intrusive or naturally fitting the workflow narrative that is very much Versatile's DNA. By the way, it goes well beyond the software. It's who we are. Everyone in my team will, the first thing you'll ask you is whether we're being intrusive when we think of doing something, right? That notion of onboarding a project, getting the data out of a job site, and then driving the insights and the action back into the hands of the people who need it, all of that without missing a beat or interfering in that workflow that already exists, right? So that was the notion of what we had that night. Something got drafted on a post-it. Swear to God, there's I still have it today. It's just a little note that has pretty much the whole thing. If we could turn the crane into a control tower, just like imagine a busy airport, right? Oh. And have it tell the story of this process, not the tool, not the people, the process. Because in 99% of the cases, you have incredible people and processes that don't allow them to shine. And waste, especially in our industry, that is baked so deeply into how we schedule and how we budget, right? Like it's already in our budget, we just don't know it, right? And what if we could tell that story and then at least at the gate, give people a very good decision support system that supports their own guts. Like I think 99% of the time we prove smart people being smart. Those superintendents and project managers and foremen and safety directors and pretty much everyone that we serve on the job site, they know what's right. The data supports it. And sometimes it shows them other ways, but it's incredible to see how many times they're right and the data can help them drive a decision super fast, super efficiently, and know for a fact that they're right, and they can defend that decision and create actually better collaboration as a result. By the way, that's one thing that is an end result that I did not foresee, especially not that night. That night was like, can we create it in a way that's non-intrusive and actually drives value? The answer was yes, and we're off to the races, I guess, so that at that point. One other very fortunate event, I guess, was that post-it landed on the tables of a very innovative GC that saw right through what we were doing. And we were fortunate enough to develop the whole thing in the field with the people that we aim to serve rather than under the neon lights. It's been an incredible experience. And some of those people, ended up working with us and for us, joining our team eventually. That general contractor ended up being one of our first investors. Actually, their vertically integrated developer group ended up being an investor as well as the founders themselves. But it's so much to be said about an early design partner, a customer that believes. They're a customer to this day, by the way. It's a really good way to develop something that actually drives value and to stay very focused on knowing what it is that you want to deliver and what it is that you're delivering it, why you exist, right? And with that, I'll just say one more thing, and that's changing sequences of events, right? So to this day, I cannot save my brother's worker, not really. He fell off the scaffolding he had a harness and there was an anchor, right? So it's only seconds or minutes of, what was the focus on, what was the event that was taking place. And technology is not here to harness people or to force that moment to happen. It's, to me, is what if the entire sequence would have been different? What if he had more time? What if my brother, who was a project manager, had more time, right? Or the superintendent? So many things could have happened differently. And to me, that is the essence of what we offer. It's that changing sequences of events for the better and shedding light on things we couldn't see before.
Yeah, you said so many things, and the sequence of events. I worked at Caterpillar for 29 years, retired, and we take these big trucks and bring them down assembly lines of big bulldozers.
Yep.
In the construction, on the assembly line, the cab, which is the last thing that goes on the machine, the guy doesn't say, well, I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to put it on first thing and make everyone work around it. There's a sequence that needs to be followed.
Yes.
And as your insight of construction is just manufacturing done without the walls and ceiling, I want to understand how, and if you could change your screen to show your device above the hook so everyone can see it. How did you come up with the insight to put it on the crane? Cranes have been around for, 50, 75, 100 years.
More than that, yeah.
Why, how, and why did you have that insight, or the co-founders?
We were looking for that non-intrusive way of getting data out, right? And the crane seemed like the perfect candidate to do that. Then again, with that non-intrusiveness as a DNA and in a way that you want to get things done, one thing just kind of like led to another, I guess, in terms of zoning in on that being the solution that we go for. And the more we kind of like got a chance to validate it, the more we were sure that we can actually do this. And we knew we could build it. We knew we had the algorithms to do this. And this was, I think, from day one about, will this create enough value to justify building? And this is where a design partner comes in place. And when you build it with the people that you aim to serve, that becomes an easy point of validation too. So while bootstrapping and a couple of months down the line, you have enough proof to have people follow you through what you already know and proved enough to be true. And that's kind of how it came to be. A lot of the validation followed, rather than, you never know until you actually try something, right? So actually having a device on a hook, and the first time data started flowing, I think we had this like stupid grin on our faces for too long of a time for something that we built in the garage. And I definitely build it to not scale, by the way, when you start, because like it's impossible to build anything to scale before you even know it's valuable. Like we were constantly driven by like, is this creating value? Is this really what we looked to to do for the industry? And we were constantly validated to say yes, 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 and yes again. And with that, by the way, we engage with some of the best general contractors this nation has to offer, and I'm honored and constantly inspired by how the teams themselves and the general contractors that we serve utilize this, and how they constantly show us more and more ways to be helpful and to drive value to them. It's a journey of value creation as far as I'm concerned. And the hook, though people like to kind of like ask that question, like, how did you come to that? It was like a natural, almost conclusion that came through the basic question of, can we create value in a non-intrusive way? That's it in a nutshell. It sounds simplified and definitely wasn't on the engineering side, but it is just that. can you? And if you can, build it by
Yeah,
all means.
you fell in love with the problem and not the solution.
I was always in love with the problem. Yeah.
And if that's the thing. And it sounds like, you got pretty lucky, you found the right thing, but you mentioned you had that partner that saw the potential in it and helped you to, put it on and work through it. Can one, briefly describe Versatile, how it works, and what some of the information you get off? I could spend all day just talking about the innovation and creation process, but this is an amazing product that's helping and driving significant value. So describe it and let me know how.
Okay, so in a nutshell, and in an attempt to I guess not get too technical, and I think you asked for an image, so I was looking for an image for you. So let me briefly share my screen and put this in the center, I guess. For
beautiful,
isn't it beautiful? And this is a relatively fresh photo, but one of my favorites. I think I just used it on a post on LinkedIn, but it captures the essence of what it aims to do. You probably don't even know it's there if you're looking from the ground, and very natural, and just fits the process. Yet just another rigging piece, and with that I'll try and explain. So there's an array of sensors on that beautiful rigging equipment, and big shout out to our partners at the Crosby Group that pretty much feeds the entire load bearing elements that you see on that beautiful piece of rigging. The brain, however, and the execution is very much CraneView and Versatile, and having an array of sensors that send you data from the exact same position, or and the exact same time, just allows you to learn much faster than any other way of gathering data, be it visual recognition or natural language. There's a couple of ways that you could do AI, right, and machine learning, but this one just with the crane being a pacemaker, and again, as I call it, my tower, my control tower. And this is a tower crane. By the way, we are agnostic to the make or any other element of the crane, even the weight capacity we're agnostic to. So it's just about having a hook that plays a significant enough role in your process is where Versatile and CraneView becomes extremely useful and a very powerful tool at the hands of the people that we serve. But that array of sensors just tells us what we need to know, and it's our job to then make sense of it and make sure that what we share back to the teams is cutting through the noise. And what we send back is a very digestible set of information that is curated for that specific user, and it's what that person needs to know, when that person needs to know it, and exactly to the person that needs to know it. I think one of my conversations with a superintendent that I admire, I think he said once that the dashboards, don't get me started on dashboards, but a dashboard that sits on a desktop somewhere that will flash red, and then someone will call someone and will call someone who will eventually call the superintendent, right? How about just giving the superintendent what they need at their fingertips? Again, some of my favorite professionals out there, and some will say that I'm my customer's biggest fan, like constantly being mocked at, I guess, or just being made. It's a known fact that I am a huge fan of our customers, and it's because I admire the way they use it, and I admire their professionalism with or without CraneView. I think one of the superintendents said once that this is like remote superintending, but not in a way of like I can be away from the job site. That's never going to happen, right? But in a way of like, I could be in two places at the same time, and I could fix a problem without actually having to go into the man lift that's been like so challenged during, you know, these days and age with, you know, the limitations around how many people you could even fit in a manual lift. And like all the recent kind of like pandemic limitations has actually made CraneView even better in terms of how it serves and how it just shaves off time. But it's that in an essence. It's take the array of sensors from a very strategic location and translate it into something that people can actually use without them having. So when I said non-intrusive or naturally fit the workflow, that is it, right? Like make it just work and drive value without asking anyone else to work for you. Technology is not here for our customers to serve us. It's the other way around, people. We're here to serve. And I think Versatile and CraneView does that extremely well. Kudos to the team, by the way, like that we have one of the best driven, mission-driven, true believers of a team that knows exactly who they are here to serve. So
that is just so phenomenal, you know, just hearing the story, hearing the passion and purpose, you know, it brings transparency to what's going on. And I must admit, after I started to learn about CraneView, every crane I look at, every image I see, I look for it because it's now top of my mind. It's like, why aren't they using it? Can you share with us hopefully, can you share with us what sensors you have on there and what type of data, or is that proprietary?
Yeah, that goes under the proprietary. We won't get into the details, but I will say, you know, it's not, we're unlimited, and we're constantly iterating and with the same question in mind: is this valuable or not? But I guess just for simplicity's sakes, just think of a smartphone, right? Like just put a smartphone under the hook, I guess will pretty much be it, right? Just make it fit the environment that it is supposed to belong in. And
so can you give us some stories, maybe give a shout out to some of your customers and how they have benefited from it and how they have changed their workflow or have transparency to the workflow that makes them, that adds significant value?
I sure can. Like, and I'll probably just I'll do a curated shout out that goes mainly through stuff that has been made public, if you don't mind. So there's a case study that I believe was covered by ENR in June of last year, just before Versatile, by the way, got the honor of being the first construction technology to be named Tech Pioneer by the World Economic Forum. Just a shout out on that, because like I've been privileged to, you know, work with the World Economic Forum since June of last year, and just an honor to represent technically the industry and just have our industry recognized in such a way. It's way greater and bigger than Versatile, and I'm honored, and I believe we represent more than just this specific company, and we do that well. We stand for the industry, and I believe we stand well. But slightly before that announcement came out, ENR did cover a case study by Turner Construction. I believe they quoted 17 days around, like literally just the demobilization and early demobilization. We have better numbers out there now. If there are multiple cranes involved, most chances are that we could shave off weeks, not just days. I guess 17 days or more than 2 weeks anyways. And there was definitely either this case study or another one that spoke of managing overtime, technically eliminating overtime. You'll be surprised how many hours there are in a day that were not entirely efficient. And overtime is where you're your safety instincts are loosened too. Like if we could avoid overtime altogether, that would be beautiful. And CraneView definitely helps there. There was that case study is worth reading. I think Turner tells the story better than what Versatile could ever do. It's definitely once again shedding light on the superheroes that we serve, and those superintendents did interview and told their story, not our story. That's what I like about some of those stories that got out there. I think in December, and once again it was ENR that shed light on the story of Hawaiian dredging, and one of the projects that we've been privileged enough to support out in Honolulu. And these guys were 90, as in 90 days behind because of permits, like nothing to do with the crane. And they made the entire 90 days back up. And they believe, as well as we believe, that we had something to do with it. But once again, just to be clear, it's all them. I'm not out there. Like, hopefully what we do sheds enough light to drive the teams on the right path of literally shaving off minutes and sometimes hours of processes that we just didn't know how to control before. Back to manufacturing. It all goes back to manufacturing. Control your process and miracles can happen. But that team has, again, their story is worth reading, and it's their story, not mine. But they were unbelievable. And once again, being at the risk of being, such a huge fan of our customers, that's usually how it plays out. But it's a fact. It's just watching these guys go, wow. Another one that was out there, Clark Pacific has made some of their wins public with establishing just control, once again, control over the way they operate through, when you know how long things take, you know how many pieces you can set a day, whether you're over or under forecasting. And we solved for a lot of the problems, like, are we going to set an X number of pieces a day or a Y? And that will change from one element to another as well. And the more you know, the more you measure, the more you're capable of controlling it and actually nailing it. And there's some incredible, we've done multiple projects with those teams, and it just keeps on getting better. And I think there's something to be said about using CraneView repeatedly, and the teams that have been using us on a number of projects. And we're honored enough, by the way, to be called back by superintendents that have worked with us in the past and come back on their next project. And I'm always extremely honored by that. But it's getting it right, so you don't go into overtime or end up with pieces on the floor that will then be double and triple handled, and at the same time that you don't end up killing it and getting a perfect day, but you still paid for the entire day, and you probably can send everyone home early, right? That's inefficient for different reasons. And we're not here to drive crane utilization, though it's a byproduct, right? But it's overall efficiency and productivity merged with extra safety just by changing sequences of events. Just work your imagination. Different teams will use it in different ways, but it always goes down to the same narrative of how many minutes can we shave off every process, and how much is it, what else can we do in the same time? I think just watching how your day really is working, the way the different trades and your partners on the job site are utilizing your resources. And the crane, once again, is like a pacemaker. It's a barometer. It tells you a greater story if you're just willing to listen. And the teams out there are willing to listen. And then they drive the improvement. So and it's before we even touch upon the power of knowing how long things really take, and how much more can you drive out of measuring as in a way of improving. And I honestly don't know another way of improving. Like, it's only when you start measuring and timing and knowing more about your own processes that you could start driving improvements that are beyond our wildest imagination. And back to manufacturing, this is how other manufacturing industries have created, you know, a leap in productivity that is in the hundreds of percentage. We're not like, I'm looking to close the entire gap. There was this like old McKinsey graph that said that manufacturing has gained, I don't know, 690% efficiency, and construction stayed flat. Some of those graphs are showing construction to go down. I personally don't believe that graph. I think construction has improved over time. But there's definitely a gap there to close, and it goes through certain methodologies that come from a manufacturing terminology and world. And I think that's what Versatile stands for. And just to say, CraneView is just one product, and it's the first product. The overall vision is really that control over manufacturing, and it doesn't end with the crane, but it's definitely where it starts. So.
Yeah, and your analogy, because a CAD file is analogous to a BIM file. Yeah. And I had one of the first 10 seats of Pro E, the CAD file, back in 1991 at Caterpillar.
Nice.
And so I didn't know that was the pebble that created a tsunami of change, because then, having a digitized part, digital twin of a physical part, allows you to do things. The transparency you give with CraneView is information that, everyone wanted, but nobody knew how to get. It's like, oh, Steve's a good operator, or Jane's a good operator. How do you measure? How many times it goes up and down? You give very specifics on time, movement, and all this stuff. You give a level of transparency that allows for almost a simulation to take place before a job even takes place. Because you could say, to build this, we need these moves.
Absolutely.
And so now you're paralleling manufacturing. So it's absolutely brilliant.
I'll say one thing. And I believe that speaking of the operators, in many ways we safeguard these professionals as well, and they're incredible. And once again, going back to the process, the operator is an unbelievable professional. He cannot control what's under the hook, and he cannot control the process. And so many times the hook doesn't know where to go, or someone's not ready for it. At least a couple of times we've seen instances where it's so easy to quote unquote ping it on the operator, right? While when you actually look at the data and you look at the process, you realize that your operator is incredible. Once again, shout out to the professionals, unbelievable people out there. And your process is flawed. If you just changed one thing, I have some like really cool examples, then the rest will work itself out, and you will allow your people to shine. And it's always about people. Never be confused. Amazing people coupled with amazing processes is how we as an industry grow. And amazing people we already have. So let's couple it with, better processes that we can actually control.
Right. And your point of the crane operator being either judged as good or bad when they have no control over what's coming in. So once again, having that transparency that shows the flow. Mentioned time and time again, this is not a technology play, it's a people play. It's a collaboration play. Expand even more. Everything, every time you talk, you bring the people side, and you kind of push away the technology side because it's enabling people. Expand upon it.
You just said it. I think that's pretty much it, right? Like, technology's job is to expand upon human capability again and again and again and again. And our industry is blessed with, again, unbelievable people. So all that's left for you to do as a tech provider is just make them shine. And if you do that well, then, you know, magic does happen. I will say to that point, the ability to serve and shed light at different processes at different times allows us to touch a lot of those people out there. And I take, once again, going to things that have been published or made public, and a quick shout out again to amazing professionals. Iron Workers Training Facility in Astoria, local 14369 training facility, has been utilizing CraneView for almost 2 years now. Well, actually more than 2 years now, to understand how to create better professionals in terms of like what distincts the teams and the process, and how do we empower those teams to, you know, peak perform again and again. And they shared their story over on the stage at Future Tech in 2019, when, you know, stages were still real and not virtual. And I loved listening to their story, and it did include CraneView, but by the way, not just it. Once again, amazing people do amazing things. But the reasons I enjoyed that story so much was because it was about the power of the team, right? And the power of the process as an enabler for a team to outperform and keep on, like, if you think, once again, since this is people, construction is very much a competitive sport, right? if we just measure, yeah, the teams that I you know, constantly watch, like, they beat themselves in their own game, right? Like they come up with a benchmark that we help create. Like, we know how long it takes when you start, and we know how better, you know, how much better you got over time, and they keep beating their own numbers, right? I think at least one team, at some point, I think this was around crane utilization, and we showed them that they were at 88%, which is a staggering number. They're like, that's not good enough. We could, you know, we could hit over 90. Spoiler, they hit 100% some of the times. And like, I did not even think that's a feasible number. But that's the power of people. Again, like, we showed them the number, but getting it from 88%, which is to begin with an indication of an unbelievable team,
Yeah.
to 100% is not my doing, which is why I keep going back to the people. But without that data, without the ability to know what you never knew before, you cannot get there. As good as you may be, you will build, and you will be incredible in what you do, and you will constantly improve through your own qualities as a human being and as a team, by the way. And there's a lot to be said about a team, and the competitive sports part of it is never individuals. It's always, you know, a team that I see in action. And it's not just the GC, it's how you play with everyone else, all the stakeholders. Actually, when you know what happened and why it happened, you could just concentrate on the solution and in making everything better. And I've seen that. I think that, again, the Turner case study probably speaks to it. I think the Hawaiian Dredging and Clark Pacific, all of them speak to the same thing. And it goes back to those unbelievable teams. By the way, we now do these stickers when teams achieve, you know, remarkable results at whatever, you know, kind of like a indicator that may be, and it's different indicators. We'll do a hard hat sticker to mark the moment, and it's beautiful. Just a fun way to do that, and again, being competitive, right? But it's enabling. When you know how you're doing, you could start thinking of ways to doing it differently and to improving upon your own statistics as a team and as an individual, and then as an industry. And by the way, one of the things that Versatile will be doing is sharing, you know, some, you know, basics with the industry as a whole. I want to encourage people to start measuring. You want to use CraneView, by all means. You want to just use a stopwatch, whatever it is that you're doing, just do it, because that's the only way we're going to get better as an industry. And Versatile will start sharing more of what we know for the better use of the industry.
Wow.
That's coming this year.
Yeah, that's
I promise.
not only passion, purpose. You know, you instill elements of gamification, you know, that little Buckeye on the Ohio State helmet, you know, whatever, it's saying job well done. It's just fun, and yet it's a badge of honor. So that's really cool. Why is there not crane view on every crane picture I see?
We're just getting started, only scratching the surface. It speaks to our focus and to our ability to listen to our customers. We wanted to take it step by step when we started. So when we launched in 2019, we were a closed club, if you'd like. There was a curated, exclusive program with, you know, a few incredible leaders that signed up early enough in late 2018 to actually do this with us when we were ready to do this. And so they kind of got an early start, if you'd like. But they also, their feedback helped shape who we are, once again, with that focus on non-intrusiveness and driving value to the people that we serve. We took the time to listen to what our customers need this to be. And it was 2020 when we were ready to launch commercially. We announced our partnership with the Crosby Group, for example, at ConExpo in March 2020. I don't think anyone got the news, by the way. There were other things in the news those days. And a couple of days later, the ConExpo actually, you know, ended a day early, and the world shut down, right? So you will see us on every crane. That is absolutely the target. The way to get there goes through, once again, driving value to the people we already serve. And we grew tremendously in 2020 through the power of those superheroes that we're proud to call users and customers. And they shouted it out. It definitely wasn't us. We are on absolutely more and more cranes every day, and honored and very happy to serve as many of our industry's superheroes as are out there and want to engage. And that might be a good opportunity to just call upon everyone to just engage. We are absolutely looking forward to showing you what this can do. And you know, the best way to reach out, by the way, is just let's talk at versatile.ai. So it's a simple way to get across to us. Obviously our website, it's actually just versatile.ai. So once again, very, very easy to find us. And yeah, I think one of our customers, believe it or not, said it once, probably last year. Was like, if you're not careful, you're going to be on every crane in America. And my response was, like, from that perspective, we're deliberately uncareful. That's absolutely our goal. And again, just saying, the crane is a great place to start. We recognize our customers' need for us to go beyond the crane, and that once again is coming. So.
Excellent. I might dig a little bit there to see if we can tease a nugget out of you. But what is your business model at this point? Because maybe you're still kind of in a mode where you're pivoting on what your business model can be. What is your business model?
Yeah, no, we never pivot. Very laser sharp focused, and again, the only thing that we're obsessed about is creating value and actually being able to do something, move a needle for you know, those people that we serve. And it's a simple model from that perspective. There's without getting into too many specifics, there's a service fee. This is a service, because the hardware for itself won't get you very far. It's great to have a bunch of sensor indicators that mean nothing to no one. Trust me, that's not what you're after. What you're after is the ability to read that and translate that into a universal language of action. And that's the service that we offer. So it's a monthly service fee. There's a setup fee involved too that covers our hard costs, as well as the ability to be as non-intrusive as we are. So engaging with us is really as easy and seamless as it sounds. So we onboard the project onto the platform as well. There is zero, information entry. There is no need for IT infrastructure. It is unbelievably easy. And I think I posted a video probably last year that I had to correct myself. I used to always say this is a 6-second installation, 6 seconds to get on the hook. And I had to stand corrected because when I watched that video that came out of a GLY project, and just to be clear, that video was taken in 2019, and that's why there are so many people around and there are no masks, that there just weren't needed. But that video clearly shows that it's 4 seconds and not 6, and I had to course correct on that one. But the setup fee is meant to keep us that non-invasive. So when the hook gets on your hook in 4 seconds, CraneView is up and running from a software, platform standpoint, and the value starts coming out, seconds later, or 5 minutes if you really want to be picky. But it's immediate value creation, and for that there is a setup fee. But once we set up the project, it's a monthly service.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Very easy.
Safety. I could see
Safety.
amazing things, and you want to protect those superheroes. Yes. How are you doing it with providing information? I could.
That's that.
Well,
so back to manufacturing, right? And back to the power of measuring. Near misses is how you avoid the real accidents. And when you understand your own near misses, and some safety directors that I've had the honor to work with over the last 2 years have shown me so much. The ability to, and I'll say for safety and for other reasons too, just, again, drawing analogies from sports, it's only when coaches started to replay the action in the field, or is when coaching became that much better. It's when teams became that much better. CraneView serves the same purpose from a safety as well as productivity, but especially on the safety side, when you can play back events, when you can understand what happened or what nearly happened, you will prevent the real incident from ever happening. You will be able to learn, and this is, I draw this from my Intel experience, right? Like every near miss is dissected to a million pieces and then put together again. By the way, as a company, we do that ourselves too. Like, we learn from absolutely every mistake we ever made. We become better as a result. And that's kind of like what I offer the industry, right? Let's just learn and constantly be better, just like replaying those plays in sports. And if the safety director is the coach from this perspective, wow, we just give them so much new capabilities and power to teach and coach and be better where it actually matters, and where you could save lives.
You bring up,
and I'll also say insurance, just from that perspective too. This will bring premiums down. And already, that's something that we're already seeing happening. So there's that element too.
That's great. Your coaches, how you break down a film, you break down a play. You break down
technology, by the way. Technology enabled that too.
Exactly. But I think also understanding your successes and how can you do more of the successes. So, all the footage, one of an innovation project at Caterpillar put a GoPro on somebody's head and followed them throughout the day. And then on Friday afternoon, when people's, productivity, they bring him into the room and they break down what he did well and what he didn't and how he can improve. So huge. So we only have a few minutes left. I'm going to let you kind of hint maybe what might be coming in the future. And then just some final thoughts to close out to the Drastic audience.
Sure. So just to touch on your point on what is done well, that thank you for kind of like bringing that up. Every team out there has best practices that should be filtered to all the other teams. We do that repeatedly in terms of like shine the light on those best practices. Some teams are so like that 100% utilization that I'm talking about, right? That's don't you want that on all your teams, right? Don't you want to understand what best practices they're using? So there's, you know, a very strong element of that. We shed light on the opportunities to improve, but more importantly, and through that validation of how well our people are actually performing, is validating those best practices and making those shine and making that available for other teams. Because knowledge is another thing in our industry that has to be captured and curated and delivered. Like 40 years of experience should not just stay up here. And the way we capture best practices allows that to happen too. I don't even know how to quantify it. So many times I have this like ROI discussion. I was like, how much is that worth? I don't know, but quite a lot as an industry just to be able to do that. And best practices probably get me as excited as everything else. And thanks for bringing it up, because we so often are focused on what it is that we need to improve on, that we forget to recognize everything that we do well. And there's so much that we do well too, and we capture that. A hint of the future, I guess I made quite a couple of hints through this discussion. There's clearly more coming. Shout out to other technologies out there as well that are doing incredible things in making our industry better, and I look forward to collaborating with some of them for sure. And we are kind of off the heels of a large Series A of funding round led by an incredible investor, Insight Partners. So we are in a position to actually do what we always wanted to do for the industry and build exactly what we always wanted to build. So I got very excited when we closed that round, and I called a bunch of our customers to say, I can finally give you what you always wanted. And some of them have been working with us for like 2 years or more, and it's like I can now build it. So we are building exactly what our customers have asked us to build. So stay tuned. And again, as I said, we're also investing in sharing with the industry as a whole, and just driving some great discussions, to jump or not to jump formworks, by the way. Like, we want to go into that discussion. Christmas trees, there's a couple of things that I think we can say a couple of things to the industry about, and again, encourage everyone to measure and see for themselves what works and what doesn't, and under what circumstances a process is a good process, and when you might want to consider something else. And again, where are your best practices and how do you filter that across your entire organization? Hint, measure, and measure again, and keep improving. And to the audience, other than thank you for tuning in and listening, and hopefully through that value creation approach that Versatile has, and I hope I have as the one that has the honor to lead this journey. Hopefully we added some value to anyone that tuned in and listened. And I would love to hear feedback from everyone that did get to this point in our conversation. And please reach out, versatile.ai. Let's talk at versatile.ai. My information is out there. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter. Just literally, we mean that when we put that on email. Let's just talk, see where that leads, and whether we could be helpful. Just want to serve more people. So,
what an absolute pleasure talking with you, getting to know you, and your passion and purpose to help and improve the construction industry, both from a productivity and a safety, is just amazing. And thank you. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you.